This is a regular meeting of the Township Committee for Monday, March 17, 2014. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, the Independent, and Two River Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building and filing with the Township Clerk all on January 11, 2013. Committeeman Fiore?
Here.
Committeeman Massell?
Here.
Committeeman Scharpenberger?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sedembrino?
Here.
Mayor Meredith? Here. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to request a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our freedoms and way of life. Thank you. First on the agenda, we have appreciation certificates and proclamations. The first item is a proclamation designating April 2014 as Autism Awareness Month. I would like to invite Brian Thorogood, Will Smith, Nikki Valentino, Tom Pontecorvo, and Tim Konigsberg to come forward for the proclamation.
How about this way first, Tim? This way first, and then we finish that way.
Bye.
Hi.
Bye.
Hi, guys.
Bye.
Hi.
You want to help me?
Yeah. It's okay. Anybody else who wishes to come up can as well.
Where's John?
Okay, I'm going to be reading this proclamation. Autism Awareness, April 2014. Whereas autism is a pervasive developmental disorder affecting the social learning and behavioral skills of those affected by it, and autism was once thought to be a relatively rare disorder affecting only 1 in 10,000 people. And as more and more health professionals become proficient in diagnosing autism and more children are being diagnosed on the autistic spectrum, resulting in rates as low as 1 in 88 children in the United States, 1 in 49 children in New Jersey, and while there is no cure for autism, it is well documented that if an individual with autism receives treatment early in their lives, it is often possible for that individual to make significant improvement. And Impact Oasis, ongoing autistic success in society, is spearheading an awareness effort in order to educate parents, professionals, and our community about autism and its effects. Now be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Stephanie C. Murray, and the Middletown Township Committee do hereby proclaim April 2014 as Autism Awareness Month in Middletown Township, and urge all employees and residents to participate in our municipality's Autism Awareness Month activity in order to become better educated on the subject of autistic spectrum disorders. Thanks for coming, guys.
Very nice.
Maya, do you want to say something about the organization?
Impact Oasis stands for Ongoing Autistic Success in Society, and we started with the township and the county and the state. We bought some property and started small local farmsteads for autistic adults to live and work on. And our first piece of property is on Sleepy Hollow Road, and it was a partnership with the township where it's a transitional program, 4-year transitional program for the students when they graduate from high school. So they have a nice place to go, just like their typical peers are going to college. The academics are hard for these guys, so it's a vocational school. It's teaching vocations in farming and agriculture, and also independent living skills. So there's a residential piece, so we have 5 residential spots and enough room for, we think, 16 days students. We're just in our first full year. Last year was our pilot year program. This is our first year. These are our students, just in their 2 years. Just started this year. Will's in his first year in Brian as well. They're all doing really well, and some of them are there as day students, going to move on to the residential piece as they feel ready and more comfortable. And they're we need another place, or our next step is to get another farm where they can live more permanently. But they're learning how to do their own laundry and cook for themselves and live away from home, and how to get help when they need, and how to communicate with their parents, texting, and, emailing like we all do. But also taking care of animals, we have gardens, we're putting up greenhouses, and it's really a long, structured, busy, healthy day. So it's going well for me. So that's for the partnership. And I'm also thankful for these guys. They taught us so much. They're wonderful people.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, can I get a photo? That would be awesome. Come here, guys. It's a tall gentleman, there you are. And one more copy set of those. Awesome. We got a walk now, that would be great.
We'll have it in the back, though. We have a few events coming up. Because we do a lot of fundraising to supplement the program, as we charge very low tuition. So we have some volunteer days where people can come and work at the farm and help us with clean up and things like that. And we have a dinner dance going on, so we'll give you that information.
Next on the agenda will be a proclamation designating April 6th through 13, 2014 as National Volunteer Week. I would like to invite Deputy Fire Chief, get the right notes. Let me invite Deputy Fire Chief Rick Hibble, Second Assistant Chief Anthony Citarella, Assistant EMS Director Joe Lopresti, EMS PIO and Past Director Bob Flager, and Middletown First Aid and Rescue member Bob Flager. And also the the Volunteer Corps of Middletown members Anthony Panzica and Joyce Breyer.
All the way in. I know there's going to be a toe. It's okay.
Okay, so I can't say enough about our volunteers. I've said these words before and I'll say them again. It's people like this that are standing here today that make this township great. It's people who think about more than what their immediate world is, more about than just themselves. And when you believe in something bigger, you just do something great. And the township couldn't be more appreciative, and we're very grateful and very thankful for all of you guys. I think we have, Cindy and I were trying to tally them today, I think we're like over 900 volunteers between the 500 firefighters that we have, the 150 EMS. We have over 200 volunteers on boards and commissions, and another, I think, a couple dozen in OEM, and it's just a tremendous testament to the community that we live in. And I know that TC and I were very, very proud of all of you, and we're proud that Middletown is our home, and we're sharing all of this with you guys, and thank you very much. So I'm going to read this now. A proclamation. Whereas Middletown Township is well known for its spectacular volunteer spirit, a large measure of Middletown's strength, beauty, and unique character is derived from the outstanding contributions made by thousands of residents who volunteer in every facet of everyday life and play a vital role in many organizations and groups. And residents who volunteer their time provide assistance which cannot be measured in terms of dollars. Volunteers provide a spirit of helping them that multiplies in value when each resident reaches out to assist another. And volunteers throughout the Township of Middletown donate their time to a wide variety of programs such as the arts and recreation, youth athletic leagues, Meals on Wheels, and most recently, programs that are helping residents recover from Superstorm Sandy. Still a tongue twister for me. And volunteers provide vital emergency services through the all-volunteer Emergency Medical Services Department, the Fire Department for Police Auxiliary and Emergency Management, and residents also donate their time in helping the Township of Middletown through their service on nearly 24 Township boards, committees, and commissions. And the Mayor and Township Committee extend their deepest gratitude to the fine men and women who generously donate their time to the community. Thank you very much, guys. Everybody, give them all a round of applause.
You know I like to see them because they're shiny, no longer lights. Oh, that way. There you go. There are many of you. One more happy set of thoughts that this is almost over. Yeah, thank you.
Sarah, good to see you. How's everything? Never fails.
Next on the agenda is approval of minutes for December. Oh, I'm sorry. We have one more proclamation. It is for April 2014 is going to be proclaimed Alcohol Awareness Month. We do not have a recipient, but Mayor Perry is going to read the proclamation.
Just going to be reading this for the record. Alcohol Awareness Month for April 2014. Whereas alcohol is the most commonly used addictive substance in the United States. 1 in every 12 adults, 17.6 million people, suffer from alcohol abuse or dependence. And more than half of all adults have a family history of alcoholism or problem drinking. And approximately 100,000 people die each year from alcohol-related causes, including drinking and driving crashes, other accidents, falls, fires, and alcohol-related homicides and suicides. And more than 7 million children live in a household where at least one parent is dependent on or has abused alcohol. And young people who begin drinking before the age of 15 are 4 times more likely to develop alcohol dependence than one who've been drinking since the age of 21. And I, Mayor Stephanie C. Murray, and the Middletown Township Committee joined the Middletown Municipal Alliance to prevent alcoholism and drug abuse in proclaiming that April 2013 is NCADD Alcohol Awareness Month in Middletown Township. We call upon all citizens, parents, governmental agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, hospitals, schools, and colleges to support efforts that will reduce stigma, increase community awareness, and increase support for individuals and families coping with alcoholism. Through these efforts, together, we can provide help for today and hope for tomorrow for those in our community who are facing challenges with alcohol use and abuse.
Okay. Now we have the approval of the minutes. For December 2nd, 2013 executive session, December 2nd, 2013 workshop meeting, December 16th, 2013 regular meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes? Motion to approve.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Massell?
Yes.
Committeeman Sharpenberger?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino?
Yes.
Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Motion carries to approve the minutes. Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing on ordinance 2014-3103, an ordinance authorizing the lease of certain properties within Block 1014, Lot 6, as shown on the tax map, also known as the Broker House.
Is there any member of the public wishing to speak to 2014-3103? Sir?
On behalf of the Madison Maritime.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, the microphone there. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the president of the Madison Maritime Heritage Association.
Name and address?
Name,
We made that efforts, correct?
Charles Levilis, 5 Grand Tour, Locust, New Jersey, Middletown. And on behalf of the Nassau Maritime Heritage Association, which is a 501c nonprofit organization in existence since 2002, we are delighted to be the future tenants of the Grover House, and we look forward to maintaining appropriate custody of that property to enhance its rebirth, essentially, from an idle historic building to an active site for public programs and activities that we engage in. So on behalf of all of us at Nassau Maritime, we look forward to occupying the site and developing our capabilities for our programs for the first time in our 15-year history. Thank you very much to the Mayor and Council.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak to 2014-3103?
Mayor, I'd just like to make one comment.
Sure.
I also would like to thank you, sir, for coming up and, for your organization, coming to the township and working out, this partnership. And, it's a testament to, again, Middletown and, certain 501c3s being ahead of the curve in so much that the same thing, if you really read the papers, is happening right now at Sandy Hook with Fort Hancock, where the National Park Service is looking for different, whether it's non-for-profits. I mean, we look for non-for-profit, but looking for different, I don't say non-for-profits are where they'd like to go to rehabilitate and make sure that those historical properties are maintained and revitalized. So I'm really proud to be able to work on that here in Middletown also. So thank you, sir, for your comments.
And I would echo Mr. Fiore's remarks as well. And I too, I'm very pleased to see that new life is being breathed into that historical building, because I think that's what's going to be able, things like this are going to be able to allow our historical properties to live well on into the future and be taken care of and appreciated. So we're very pleased about that as well. Okay, anybody else wishing to speak to this? Move to close public comment.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Massell?
Yes.
Committeeman Scharfenberger?
Yes, with a quick comment.
Deputy Mayor Severino?
Yes.
And Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, not to pile on, but anybody who knows this house, the Grover House, you probably pass it, 10 times a week and not realize it. It's one of the most important houses or structures in the state. It survived 2 moves, I believe, before it came to its final resting place here, and we are really excited about it as a member of the Landmark Commission and also an archaeologist. They're not building any more 17th century houses anymore, so this is really something, and I think this adaptive reuse is really going to be the wave of the future as budgets become more constrained. We have to look for these creative ways to protect what's left, what little is left, I should say, and make sure that future generations get to enjoy what we have right now. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Next is the public hearing on ordinance 20.
Resolution.
She didn't move. You moved to close, but we need to close the public hearing.
Okay, motion carries to adopt ordinance 2014.
Motion to adopt.
Second motion. She didn't make it all in one second.
Sorry about that.
Okay, we'll do that again. Committeeman Fiore?
Yes to it.
Committeeman Massell?
Yes.
Committeeman Scharfenberger?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Severino?
Yes.
And Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 2014-3103. Next is the public hearing on ordinance 2014-3104, ordinance dissolving Middletown Township Human Rights Commission.
Is there anyone wishing to speak to 2014-3104? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Linda Zuccaro. I'm a resident of Tinton Falls, residing on 227 Mill Lane in Tinton Falls. I'm here this evening as a member of the Monmouth County Human Relations Commission. I'd like to read, if I may, a brief letter addressed to Mayor Murray, and I have a hard copy to give to you as well. Dear Mayor Murray, we have been advised that the Middletown Township Committee will vote this evening to dissolve the Middletown Human Rights Commission. Since the Middletown Commission was founded in 1968 under state law, it has fulfilled its mission well. One example of its successful working with community groups is the response to a concern about a racial incident at a Middletown high school football team. The Middletown Commission convened a meeting of school superintendent, presidents of two NAACP branches, and members of the commission. Topics discussed were preventing racial bias and bullying, starting a school human relations commission, and how to hire more minority staff members as well as role models and facilitators. Our organization, the County Human Relations Commission, has pressed towns throughout the county to create their own local boards where community-specific issues can be aired and addressed more thoroughly. The very best way to work on human relations is at a grassroots level, where individuals and groups can understand the nature of the particular concern and brainstorm solutions to smooth relations. If people have complaints or concerns, they can be aired to people from the community, to people they know. In a large and diverse municipality such as Middletown, it is essential that the Middletown Commission exist and function at full strength. There are always going to be incidents. It's important to have a place where people can have a rational, reasonable conversation about how they can be addressed and how they can be prevented. It would be regrettable if you dissolve the Middletown Commission. We urge you to consider our input. Our officers would be pleased to meet with you to discuss this further. Sincerely, the Monmouth County Human Relations Commission.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to 2014-3104? Yes, sir.
I'm Indrajit Sadi, 2879 Route 9 North in Southern New Jersey. I'm also one of the commissioners of Monmouth County Human Relations Commission. And when we knew about this, that the Middletown Commission is being dissolved, it was very saddening to say. But I think that I could give you an out-of-box view. Maybe you people are too close to the commission. Maybe the commissioners or you people have not attended any of the meetings. There would be no reason to dissolve a commission like a Human Rights Commission. If the leadership feels it's not doing the right job, show them the right path. If you feel it is too much money to run such a commission, I don't think it is. I was the treasurer of the Monmouth County Human Relations Commission. I know how little it costs. And just like the firefighters and other people are volunteers, I'm sure these commissions can be run with volunteers. It doesn't take too much money. I saw somewhere here that it costs, and this commission is being dissolved because it costs too much. No, it does not. Then we, like Heather just said, we are trying to have new commissions set up. It will send a very wrong signal that the Human Rights Commission is being dissolved. It will not serve any good purpose. There are many things which this commission has been doing and researched about. When an older minority leader is being discriminated against, I don't think anybody else goes from there as a volunteer to meet that person in their home. Only a commission like that works like that. It's not right to dissolve commissions like this. It will not send the right signal. I cannot stress it enough. A commission like this goes to a prosecutor's office, like London County prosecutors, and discusses issues in specificity about things which have been going wrong. If a racial cartoon is being published anywhere, it's a commission like this, who doesn't need to have a meeting first of all. The members sit in their own homes, think about these things, talk among themselves, and then go and talk to people. Maybe it is not done in a very organized way, but it does not mean that such an issue that the commissions are not working with. If there is no incident of human rights like problems or maybe Middletown feels it's a community where such a commission, such things do not happen. If there are no fires, we don't close down our firehouses. If there is no crime, we don't say we don't need police officers. If there is no human rights issue, it's maybe because the commission was working. So even if it appears that there is no need, please do not abolish, please do not dismiss it, send a wrong signal. If there are reporters around here, they are going to report something bad, like a human rights commission is being dismissed. Nobody is going to read through the whole story. They will just read this. Middletown has abolished its human rights commission. Middletown either doesn't care about human rights, or Middletown is such a nice place where no issue can happen, nothing wrong can happen. It isn't working. If it does not happen, maybe the commission is doing something right. Or like I said, if there is no fire, it doesn't mean you don't need firehouses.
Okay, sir, thank you very much for your commentary.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like?
Please reconsider your decision and do what is done.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to 2014-31? Yes.
Carolyn Schwabel, Hamilton Avenue in Leonardo, New Jersey. And I'm here to speak the truth about Kittygate. I have to tell you that each one of these whereas each one is not true. And there's tons of information to prove that it's not true, and I was going to bring you wads of it, but then I realized I've sent them, the committee sent them to you all through the years. And I think there's a problem maybe with the current Township Committee understanding the difference between advisory and advocacy. Because the first of the whereases said that it's an advisory body created under state laws, and as one of you have said, you feel that now that the laws are created, state and federal laws are in, then we don't need local commissions anymore, that kind of thing. But as Lincoln said, a good Republican, legislation without enforcement is only good advice. And there is a problem even in Middletown with things not being enforced, and you've had to spend a great deal of many monies, $300,000 even, to rectify what you haven't done. Also, the next one said that it's not been an active body, and when it did meet, it failed to focus on the state and local mandate. That's not true, not at all. One reason it's not been an active elected body is because over the years, the township committee has not appointed people to the committee. They begged and pleaded for some diverse people, and one mayor said, Middletown is 97% white, we don't need diversity, we're a meritocracy. All was
Where
When was that said?
Who said that?
said?
I can tell you later, this is my time.
Oh, that's
It's a current
That's
It is a current committee minutes.
Oh,
Also,
that's slanderous.
and they just didn't get, well, if he did it, he did it.
I'd like to see that.
Who said it?
Anyway,
Who said it?
excuse me,
Who said it?
I.
Produce the record where that was said.
It's in our notes, but right now, my time, you owe me 27.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You just let it dribble down. It's supposed to be an 11-member board, and suddenly it was down to 4 members, and then it was down to 2 members, and then it was down to 0 members. So how do you expect a lot of activity from people that don't have support for them? There's a lot of thought that they were not happy with their mission. 2 other mayors came to the committee recently, or 2010, I guess that's recent, saying they weren't happy with the mission, that we were doing too much advocacy, and they were going to write new ones up, but it never happened. And at that point, we had 4 new members, and they were afraid to do anything until they got the new mission, because there was word that there was retaliation at times in town. But we kept you totally informed. I think we're the only board, they said, that sent minutes to the clerk to hand out to the body. We asked in 24, we sent you a neat little thing saying, please give us 2 programs that you would like us to work on, so we coordinate you guys. No answer whatsoever. So in 2010, we hand-delivered a form, and I have it here if you want to see it, to the commission at that time, asking for what they'd like us to work on. Another time in 2007, February 07, I handed the 5 top projects that we had voted on to the current mayor, and explained that this is what we're working on. There were no negatives about it, which you're now bringing up. It was things like affordable housing. It was about, the top was the human animal bond. It was after Katrina, and we wanted to make the township requested to follow the federal law, pets it's called. The pets had to be allowed into the emergency places. No answer on that, and then the emergency service, which we were reporting, said you can't do it that way, they might bite somebody. But the law has to be worked out around that, we don't have it. In other words, we gave you advice, you didn't follow it, and said you didn't like it and didn't follow it, or mostly just totally ignored us. That was very disrespectful. Then I just want to do a quickie on what the actual advice is we'll be giving you to the thing that created us was supposed to be. The whole thing, the commission is supposed to foster goodwill, cooperation, and conciliation among the different groups and elements. And then the second thing, they may be empowered by the local governing bodies to make recommendations to them. But that's not the first thing. The first goal, the commission shall cooperate with other units of government, especially the Division on Civil Rights, and help make people keep their rights. The first thing is not advice. Is to help with civil rights. They've ignored a lot of different things that we have suggested to you, and I hate to see the commission go because it has a history of giving representation and voice to minorities in the township. If you take back the people that were on our committee, we have an Asian guy who left in 2009, very wonderful doctor, because the committee, as I read to you guys, the committee was disrespectful and inactive to the commission. It's a no-brainer. And you say it's too expensive, as Mr. Swanee said.
Ms. Schwebel, thank you for your commentary.
Cost.
Thank you very much.
It's a lot of money.
You want to talk the truth? Let's talk the truth, okay? You want to talk about the truth? Let's talk about the truth. Quite frankly, I'm a little bit tired of you using politics to try to bully us into doing something that is redundant. It is redundant on the state level, it is redundant on the federal level. We have a commission at the county, and we have a heightened public awareness now. And to suggest that none of us here or any of the other people in the township are incapable of being aware of this without a commission that hasn't met in several years.
But you have.
But I'm speaking, I let you speak, it's my turn to speak. Okay, I'm tired of the bullying, because you want to talk about human rights and being an advocate. It's tiring. And I'm
Mayor, if I can, when you're...
Please.
Thank you. Ms. Schwebel, you made some comments there that I will again say that you've politically grandstanded. I've said this in the press. For the upteenth time, and you made some comments about standing committee member. You didn't name the committee member, making, what you claimed were disparaging racial remarks. So I challenge you, ma'am, to produce those records because they're absolutely libelous in my view. But be it as it may, the purpose, Mrs. Schwebel, that you have such advocacy and continue to fight for this commission, as I mentioned, and as I was the member who came in 2010, is because you continue to use this as a political forum to bully this committee. Now, you could take my word, and we could disagree. You could say that's not true. I mean, what you've said here tonight just proves it. But I have an email here that you sent the Township Committee, maybe accidentally, that I'd like to read for the record, just to prove my point as to this commission, that there had not been any advisory statements given to the Township Committee in at least 4 years. You referenced maybe 2007, the last time something came through. But on March 9, 2014, to prove my point of your political forum to continue to try to besmirch the Township Committee through the Human Rights Commission, you wrote an email to somebody, which I have copies for the press if they would like, at 12:17 p.m. from you, calling for a call to quote-unquote rage. On Monday, March 17th at 8 p.m., the Middletown Township Committee meeting will include a public hearing on the ordinance to terminate the Middletown Human Rights Commission, MHRC, started in 1968, followed by the vote to end the commission. The ordinance is totally bogus, and we have copious written documentation to prove that. Each speaker, though, has a 5-minute limit. We are seeking some social justice-minded advocates to speak or send letters. We can provide bullet points before the meeting. The MHRC is destined to be, quote, killed, unquote, but we do not want to, quote, go gently into that good night. Rage against the dying of the light. Dylan Thomas. Thanks for caring, Carolyn Schwebel. That message was responded by someone at 12:21 saying, let me know how I can send out some letters. And then you said, thanks. You can email the Township Committee at townshipcommittee@middletownnj.org. But clearly that was sent to the committee. So again, my point being, Ms. Schwebel, that you continue to use this commission, which has no members, has had no members for years, has had no one willing to even give advisory standing to this board. You continue to use it for your political forum, and you continue to, this is just another example of that, the countless letters, the countless statements you just made, and the only reason that you're here today is because no longer will you be able to be a political bully. Thank you.
You came to
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this ordinance?
And you assaulted the committee with no prior
Schwebel.
question.
The handouts for the committee, which documents on this information, do you want to pass it on? And
Mr. Schwebel, just for the record, would you just please say your name and address? Thank you.
Yes, these are the handouts for the records.
John Schwebel, Hamilton Avenue, in Ireland. We also have handouts that reporters on them. I want to just think about clause, whereas clause 3 in the ordinance, which referred to the protection drive, that was a joint project between the Middletown Township Committee and the Human Rights Commission. And this is the sign that was on the outside of the box. But first of all, I had to make some comments on Mr. Perry's comments because, yes, it's true. Carolyn has been a persistent advocate for civil rights and human rights and other people, and that's why she was appointed as chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. And the reason that the Human Rights Commission has had no members is because the Township Committee refused to appoint any members. It's like saying, I killed my parents, so feel sorry for me because I'm an orphan. It's ridiculous, the whole thing is ridiculous. Most of these points in these clauses are false, completely false. The third one, which says that this horrible thing happened. The commission involved itself in matters entirely outside of the jurisdiction of the township governing body. In one instance, it was even used to promote a pet food drive for a charity associated with a member of the commission. Well, that obviously refers to Carolyn, and the charity was the SPCA, and the only association that she had with the SPCA was as a donor to the SPCA. I know all of your votes are 5-0, but I think you'd be well advised to at least amend this ordinance to remove that clause. It sets a very bad precedent that could be applied to all the commissions, boards, including yourself, that no member could promote a charity that they were associated with or that they donated to. You wouldn't be able to have a proclamation about Autism Month if any of you had any association with autism. This clause is completely ridiculous, and I imagine it was put in there out of spite, because it makes no sense at all. The human-animal bond was the top priority for the Human Rights Commission when the SPCA sheltered extra pets after Hurricane Katrina. The pet food drive was approved by the township as a joint effort of the Township Committee and the Human Rights Commission. There was a press release by the township on December 22nd, 2009 that said, "This drive is organized by Middletown Township in coordination with the township's volunteer Human Rights Commission." So if the Human Rights Commission has to be dissolved, then the Township Committee also should dissolve itself. If you'd like to have the audio of the mayor's comments at the December 2009 township meeting, where Mayor Brightbill supported the pet food drive and even asked people to bring donations on Organization Day 2010. It's a no-brainer that at least this clause, this third clause, should be removed. Otherwise, the Township Committee would have to stop all their acknowledgments, proclamations to any charity that they contributed to or were associated with. The Veterans Committee wouldn't be able to do care packages for the veterans, because obviously they're veterans, so they're associated with veterans. The whole thing is completely ridiculous. And the committee members that were associated with the Middletown Disaster Relief Fund would have to build a wall between themselves and that fund, or not be associated with that fund, Mr. Fiore. That's one example. The implications go on and on. It's completely ridiculous. Now, as far as the comments that you said were libel and were lies, I was at the Human Rights Commission meeting that was visited by Mayor Sharpenberger at the time, and he said something like, I don't have the exact words, something like, if I can summarize it, Middletown is 93% white. We don't believe in quotas. We have no we have no need essentially for the activities of the Human Rights Commission.
First of all,
And your time is up, thank
Mr.
you.
Schliebel, don't summarize, come up here with a quote. That's
He's
number
up
one.
with time.
And number two,
This is free speech, okay?
number
If you want to
two,
sue me, you can sue me.
if I said we don't believe in quotas, I'll say it again, we don't believe in quotas. Thank you.
Fine.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I'll say rage.
Thank you very much.
Against the dying of
Thank you,
life.
please sit, sir. Thank you, sir.
There's a time and a place
Thank
for
you.
rage, okay?
Thank you.
Rage against
Thank
the
you.
dying of the
And
light.
disrespect too for the governing body's rules of this forum.
It is not politics,
Thank
Mr. Fiore.
Okay.
You can
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this ordinance? Seeing no other members of the public, move to close public and move for adoption.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Lisell?
Yes.
Committeeman Sharpenberger?
Yes,
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino?
Yes.
Mayor Mooney?
Yes.
Motion carried to close the public hearing and adopt ordinance 2014-304. Next is the public hearing on ordinance 2014-3105, an ordinance authorizing acquisition of certain interest in real property by negotiation, purchase, condemnation, or eminent domain.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak to 2014-3105? Seeing no members of the public, move to close public portion, move to adopt.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore,
Yes.
Committeeman Massell,
Yes.
Committeeman Scharpenberger,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt ordinance 2014-3105. Next on the agenda is a consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt resolution? Actually, the first item is the payment of bills, which would be separate. Resolution 14-109. May I have a motion to approve the payment of bills for March 17, 2014?
So moved.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore,
Yes.
Committeeman Massell,
Yes.
Committeeman Scharpenberger,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino.
Yes.
And Mayor Murray.
Yes.
Next is the consent agenda, which includes resolution 14-110 through 14-115, including bingo and raffles and volunteer fire department
I can ask
applications.
you to read the title of the additional resolution for the record, since it was a late addition of the 115.
Yes, resolution 14-115 was an addition to the agenda. It's entitled Resolution Implementing Provisions of Disaster Control Act.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore,
Yes.
Committeeman Massell,
Yes.
Committeeman Scharpenberger,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sedambrino,
Yes.
Mayor Murray.
Yes. Okay, we're ready for Township Committee comments. Committeeman Fiore, you're up first.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few comments this evening. First, regarding the budget, which I did make comments an hour ago. With respect to the budget, I think, I want to thank the Township Administration and also our CFO for putting together I believe, is a very fiscally conservative 2014 budget, despite the continuing challenges that we face here at the municipal level. I think it's very clear and interesting to note that this Township Committee continues, and administration continues to look in every direction to provide the least amount of impact and to also rein in spending as much as possible by bringing in budgets which, again, since 2011, have complied fully with the governor's property tax cap. I mean, obviously, a little bit disappointing this year to be a little bit over the cap this year. Now, you'll see other towns, that's all in with exceptions. There are a lot of exemptions to the cap that we could have taken with insurance and other things. And, sometimes you can play accounting games of being under the 2% cap and raise taxes, 10%, which is other municipalities may do. But here we try to come in and would have came in a little bit over 2% this year, about a penny on the tax rate, would have come in well under 1% had we not had probably the fourth worst winter on record in terms of snowfall, not necessarily in specific intensity, but frequency, with 13 such events, which caused about 2% just increase. $1 million is 2% here, ladies and gentlemen. And, part of that being is the Township Committee continues its rein on spending, and I've said this since the day I became mayor in 2011, is inflation is one thing. You see it in your household, you see it in your household finance, you see it when you go to the pump, when you pay your utility bills, when you go to the supermarket. Obviously, things continue to be more expensive today than they were a year ago or 2 years ago, based on inflation, based on the cost of commodities. That is no exemption to the township. You heard things like healthcare costs, you heard things like energy and utility costs that we continue to try to find innovative ways. We're not immune from the same things that you'll find in your household. However, one of the things that, as I said in 2011, we can do all that we can do here on the municipal level, but we are never going to be flat, and we are never going to be able to cut taxes unless we get the proper cooperation from the state. And look, I've said it before, I'll say it again, there's a resolution this evening, 14-114, which just personifies the point. We do not have a spending problem here in Middletown Township. We have done everything we can to spend the least amount of money per capita anywhere in the state. However, we continue to have that spending problem in Trenton. And with the skim on things like energy receipts tax, you're looking at something that would ultimately goes from a 2%, 2 point some odd percent tax increase due to trying to keep up with inflation and rising costs, to what would equate to about an 8% tax decrease, okay? It's the equivalent, as I said at the last meeting, of the school board, us collecting school taxes for the Board of Education and not paying the whole amount of money and using it for ourselves. I can't put blame on the governor because he delivers a budget, and I am sure Governor Christie would be more than happy to return that money back to the municipalities such as Middletown, but unfortunately he has to have a budget passed by the Assembly and the Senate, who continues just reckless spending on different initiatives. The list goes on and on, aid to distressed cities, spending programs. I mean, look, everyone takes blame in Trenton. The governor takes blame, the legislature takes blame, the Assembly leadership takes blame, but until the money goes back to the municipalities and to the municipalities, you are not going to see levelized taxes or tax cuts. It's just not going to happen in large municipalities under this current system. So I urge the legislature, I urge the governor, I urge passage of the assembly bills in order to return the money that is due to the municipalities so that we can provide meaningful tax relief to our residents of Middletown. Two other things, Mayor. One is with respect to the library. Similar budget scenario, but I am the Township Committee. I am on the library board as the mayor's designee again this year, and I commend the library board for coming in with a budget that absolutely spends pretty much the money they take in and uses very little in reserves. And to the point of the trials and tribulations of the Library Board of Trustees, I mean, these are volunteers who have had some pretty turbulent times, have taken some criticism from some of the community, have taken a lot of had to come with a very big challenge to look and saw 3 years ago that the library budgeting system was unattainable. And I think they were vindicated when you see other towns that have not risen to that challenge, unfortunately, such as our neighbors in Red Bank, who ultimately may close their library or have laid off at least half, if not more, of their staff. So a testament to the library trustees for seeing this ahead of time, for putting the Middletown Library in a better financial position to succeed. And with the new director, I am very confident that the Middletown Library's best days are still well ahead of them and not behind them. And then finally, I just wanted to mention, I saw something pretty cool today on the Middletown Art Center website. At the Middletown Art Center, in recognition of 350, Middletown 350, and the time capsule burial, which will happen at the Art Center, is actually selling memorial bricks at the Art Center. Proceeds will go to fund the Middletown Arts Council, and I think it's a great opportunity for families to memorialize, if they'd like to, their family name and heritage for the generations to come in Middletown. So check that out.
Vinny, man, can I ask you, did they pay by the letter?
Luckily, you could fit 13 characters, I believe, per line, Dr. Schaufelberger, so I think we might be okay. Thank you, Mayor, for the time this evening.
And just a brief note of that, those bricks are going to be later in the time capsule, so they'll have a prominent.
Also, I'd just like to also wish all of the Irish a very happy St. Patrick's Day. I got about as green as I can get. Thank you.
We're all Irish today.
Finished, Tony?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committeeman, Mrs. Elder.
I'll be brief. Committeeman Fury so eloquently discussed the budget, but I do want to echo his comments. First, I want to thank and congratulate our new CFO. First time at it. I think he did a super job introducing this. You had huge shoes to fill, literally, actually, with our CFO, Nick, who did a super job. Look, we had an extraordinary winter this year. I mean, in my lifetime, growing up in Middletown, I can't remember this much snow. I think the storm of 77, which all the old folk talk about, is the only thing that compares to it. But coming in where we did, I think, is a testament to your work, and it's a great job. I was going to talk about the bricks because I'm actually on the Art Center, but I'm not sure if you there's lunch there. But it is, I think that is an awesome way to kind of memorialize whatever it may be, and it's a great, it's a great contribution to the Art Center and to the Middletown 350. And I also want to wish everyone a very happy St. Patrick's Day and a safe one. Thank you, Mayor.
Very briefly, because my other two colleagues have summed it up, but I want to congratulate and thank our new CFO, Colleen Lapp, the administrator, and all of the department heads for the work that they've done on the budget, which is a very, very difficult, onerous task every year that we have to deal with. There's so many outside forces working against towns when they try to put together a budget that is as sound as possible, and Middletown always seems to set the standard for dealing with adversity the way we did this year, and I'm really pleased with it, the way we seem to, not to use pardon the pun, but weather the storms, plural, and they deserve a lot of credit, so thank you very much. I also want to mention the new library director. It's something that we're very excited of here. It was a fairly extensive search, and I think the new library director comes with great credentials, and we're looking forward to great things from the library and really go into the next couple of years, next couple of decades, hopefully, on very solid footing. And you see articles all around. Fiore mentioned one in our neighboring town of Red Bank, but libraries are really struggling in this day and age, and funding always being an issue. I think they will continue to struggle. So for our library to be on such solid footing and have such hope for the future, I think is really something to be very proud of. And a couple of things I wanted to mention too. I was able to leave my palatial new residence to attend quite a few events over the past few weeks, and one was at the VFW. It was a dinner for a scoutmaster who I think served 40 plus years, and he's getting on in years now, and his name is Vinny Grumpy Teller. And I had to say, when I gave out a proclamation, I think it was the first in Middletown annals to give out a proclamation to an individual named Grumpy. But he was anything but. It was really a great night. And later that night, I went to the Tejan Foundation dinner at Jacques. And a lot of you folks may know Kenny Tejan was lost in 9/11. He was a Port Authority policeman. And his parents and his sisters still live in the area here. They are the absolute salt of the earth. And they channeled their unspeakable grief into doing some really good things for kids and charities through the foundation, and they had a record crowd. They didn't have to look for a bigger venue because they had to turn the people away from Jacques. So that's the good news. Then the next morning was the High School North Hall of Fame breakfast. It was a fundraiser for mostly the baseball team, but I believe it's the organization there. Tremendous turnout at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. It was really good to see, and The young men who play on the team do the serving and clear the tables, just spectacular. What a great bunch of kids, and it was really a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I had to leave it early to go to another breakfast, which was the Elks Awards Breakfast, annual, where they give out awards for athletics, scholarly pursuits. So you recognize a lot of kids who do the right thing all year long, and the Elks are a great group of citizens and residents, and they're real friends of ours, and they're very, solid citizens, solid members of the community. And then finally that day, I had 2 Eagle Scout awards. Actually, it was 2 Eagle Scouts receiving the Eagle Scout awards on the same. Am I getting that right? Eagle Scout? Okay. And it's really, I say this at every one of these events, that Middletown can crank out Eagle Scouts like Heinz cranks out pickles. It's unbelievable how many Eagle Scouts we have every year. And there's another 4 or 5 coming up in several weeks. So it really is a testament to the strength of our scouting program here, and certainly the youth who stick it out. I think this is something like less than 10% go through all the way to the end. So it really is something very special, the program that we have here. And March 29th, I'll be giving a talk at the Arts Center. 10 a.m. is a Saturday morning. My 4 colleagues up here may not know it, but they're coming. And it's going to be about the Old First Church, which is the oldest Baptist church in New Jersey and one of the oldest Baptist churches in the country. Really interesting talk, and if you're free and you have an hour to spare, it really is it's a lot of fun. And I want to welcome the Navesink Maritime Association, and you know the Old First Church well. You had sponsored a historical talk on the bay. It was really a great turnout. The mayor and I were there, and hopefully I can do it some justice. And with that, my wife and my in-laws would never forgive me if I didn't wish everybody a very happy St. Patrick's Day. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I believe after my committee colleague comments, there's very little left to say with regard to the budget. We'll leave that for you. So, but I do want to congratulate our CFO, our administrator, on a great job done with this year's budget in a very difficult year. A couple of items that I'll point out with regard to the budget that I want to make sure everyone listened to and heard. One item that the CFO mentioned was that the percentage of salaries and wages in the budget, correct me if I'm wrong, went down from 37% to about 34%. Now, I said the salaries and wages went down, right, as part of the municipal budget. That's a great feat with regard to the planning of the Township of Middletown. And with regard to the energy receipts tax and the Resolution 14-114 supporting legislation returning the energy receipts tax to the municipal government, it's important to understand that the municipal tax levy increase at about $1.5 million can fit into the variance that the township should have gotten from the energy receipt tax this year almost 3 1/3 times. Okay, so that's very important to understand. That is money that should be coming directly to the township. It's going to the state. The state ain't giving back to us. So it's important to understand that increase can fit at that 3 1/3 times, and that's important to understand. But with regard to the snow, as Committeeman Fiore mentioned, the snow increase this year was over $1 million. Tax point is a little less than $500,000. So at less than 2.88% increase, that amounts for a pretty large percentage of that increase. That was the snow that none of us could have planned. I know that some people claim to be clairvoyant, not me, not our CFO. So we want to make certain that everyone understands that a large percentage of that increase was that snow, and our CFO did an excellent job to try to balance that budget and move this forward with the minimal increase. So thank you very much. The only other comment that I'll make is that I did attend with Dr. Scharfenberger the VFW Youth Activities Awards breakfast. Good breakfast. That was only my first breakfast of the morning. It wasn't my second. But I know that Dr. Scharfenberger took a pass on a breakfast that morning, so as not to have two. And of course, all of us up here this evening will be Irish for the evening. I won't tell my family, so thank you very much.
Thank you. And I'm last, so it's hard to put a different spin on what all of you have already said, but suffice to say that I'm going to echo their comments. And additionally, just, Colleen, you did a tremendous job. I mean, this was just a fantastic job. I know you worked very hard on this, and as well as the administration and the department heads. And it is no small feat. I mean, the story is this crushing snow. And it is no small feat to get us to such a marginal tax levy that we have right now. So we really all appreciate that, the taxpayers appreciate that, and we know we're going to go forward and continue to be so fiscally responsible. So we're really happy with that, and thank you. The one thing I did want to mention also, just to add on to the library, libraries today, they're evolving, they're changing, especially now in the digital age. And really glad to welcome our new library director, Kim Rinaldi, because I really believe, and I think that the thought of the rest of the committee is that she will really be able to help our library evolve and move forward into the future. And that's very important nowadays, because the kids today, I mean, they're with the Kindles and the digital readers, and we need to move forward and be able to service the community in different ways. So looking forward to what she has to come. More on that. Okay, with that, I'm going to open up Township Committee comments is finished, and then we're going to open up public comments. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Sir? Just need your name and address. All right, your name and address for the record, and you'll have a total of 5 minutes.
My name is Arthur Wilson. My address is 53 Compton Street, Belford, New Jersey. I'm going to speak to you today about issues regarding the Fort Knox Skate Park. I'd like to first just give you a little perspective as to why this issue is important to me. I'm 23 years old. I've been living in Belford my entire life. I've been skateboarding for about 12 years, and I've literally been there since the very first day I opened. I was a 12-year-old kid, seeing and figuring skateboarders doing tricks I couldn't even imagine doing. And now I'm someone who can be a positive influence on younger skateboarders, and I'm the one teaching them tricks and teaching them about the proper safety equipment, what to do, how to act at a skate park, how to lead a turn. When I saw the park being torn down, it really hit hard, because skateboarding is very important to me, because during summer of my 8th grade, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and skateboarding was my passion. I couldn't skateboard for a long time, and it's pretty hard for this older girl to go through the treatments. And the one major thing that kept me going was the thought that I could skateboard at the skate park, and I would visit my friends there, and they would encourage me. They were happy to see me. They came back on the wall. They didn't recognize me, but it was a great community. I got together, and my mom would bring me there, and I was told I didn't drive the car, so they would all come and hang out and just meet my family. And it's a great place for the kids in the township to meet and hang out and be active. And once I did skateboard, once I recovered, I was there every single day, and I was enjoying that time for a long time until it was suddenly closed. We had family friends at the time, and we had asked him what was going on. I called the township, but we didn't seem to get any real answers. I was going to having to meet at the time, and I understood that there was a budget constraints in the Parks and Rec Committee, and myself, I was even affected by that, because I work for a local video production company, and we would normally rely on $2,000 for the concerts and park videotaping. And so I understood that it was tough times for the Parks and Rec department, but I think, and I understand how difficult it is to run a township, and I think there's a kind of confusion and a frustration between the skateboarding community and other sports, scooters, rollerblading. I think that if there was just more communication why things happen the way they do, and if there tends to be a community of people who represent skateboarders and other members of the community, such as owners of skateboarding shops or local stores. There's Nebby Skateboard Shop right around the corner, there's Pete Birds, there's shops, so rather than highway, skateboarding is a billion-dollar industry, and it's only growing in popularity. I think that there was a clear need for the skate park at the time, that's why it was built, and I don't think that need is limited. In fact, most places are growing. And I'm just urge you to, I'm not exactly sure what the status is of the skateboard. Well, I know that the grants are being put in the stores, but I just would like to maybe
Get some clarification.
sorry.
With some clarification.
Yeah, just add.
Yeah.
I know there were talks about moving it to the park, and then I don't know. It's just all speculation. So I just proposed that I would want to see myself to form a committee of other members in the township to approach you, and despite that this is something that seems to be frustrating a lot of people, it's gotten me to participate in local politics. So it's an interesting, it could be positive things that come out of it.
Well, first, I appreciate your coming, and we're always interested in hearing what our residents have to say. And there are several layers to this, so I'm going to give it over to our administrator, who can give you more of an accurate picture.
I can do it. Arthur, it's true that initially when the skate park was closed, it was closed because it was 2009, 2010, for having a difficult time with staffing, and the only way to keep it open and have it run somewhat safely was to have staff there. We just couldn't afford to do that because someone literally sat there all day. Even when it's empty, it was open, someone had to be there. And so it was closed, and there was discussion at the time that we would close it for a while. We would consider finding a better location. But the problem with that location was because it was somewhat small. We had a major problem with kids using bikes on the equipment. We couldn't keep them out. It was not designed for bicycles. It was specifically designed for rollerblade and inline skating only. And people with bicycles were coming into the park, and unfortunately there was a lot of conflict, there was a lot of bullying, there were hundreds of police calls there, and it was just a problem. So we thought for a while, maybe we can come up with a better location, and we did talk about Tyndall Park at one time. The problem is that once the park was closed, and there were signs put on it saying closed, and there were locks put on the gate saying it was closed, people continued to break into it. As fast as we would put up signs, they would be stolen. As fast as we would fix the gates and locks and fences, they'd be broken and vandalized. And so I think the problem is that the users of the facility have kind of soured everyone as to their willingness to abide by rules. And so there's no discussion right now about putting one anywhere. That's not to say that there may never be, but right now, the people who continually vandalized that facility once it was closed are really the ones responsible for there not being plans for another one, at least right now. So I think this matter certainly is something the Township Committee is going to continue to consider. Right now, there's no specific plans to, yes, the equipment's being put in storage. There's no specific plans to build another facility right now, and I think, again, largely it was because people didn't abide by the rules when it was closed, and people were complaining about taxpayer money being wasted on the skate park. Well, taxpayer money was being wasted on continually repairing things that were being vandalized. And so, unfortunately, I think the people doing that have made it difficult for us to justify doing another one, at least in the near future.
We just wanted to add also to that, the equipment was also misused. I mean, just last week when the article came out in the Asbury Park Press, the very first picture was of someone on a bicycle, and the bicycles weren't allowed in there.
Yes.
So, that also is a factor, because we can't have people going in there and getting hurt because they're misusing the equipment.
Yeah, I actually said my perspective is that if there was a community of skateboarders and other users of the skate park, they would be able to better inform you of better building materials or ramps such as cement.
See, that's a good point. And I
Because on long range, they have a very it's a very successful skate park. It brings a lot of kids and lots of the community. And
You hit on the third part of the issue, which issue number one has been supervision. And you heard us talk about the budget, and I thank you for coming tonight and allaying your concerns. And believe me, this is something that we've all grappled with respect to, the decisions that we have to make, not only about the skate park, but other things that we have to do in town. And the issue, one, is supervision, right? So you heard me and the rest of the committee talk about the budget, and look, I'm not happy with the budget not being flat, let me be candid, right? But, we have a certain finite amount of money, and we really can't afford to have somebody there full-time paying pension and salary to staff the park. So that gets into what Mr. Mercatante said, which turns into the misuse of the equipment. But so that's one aspect. I mean, the second aspect can be the misuse of equipment because of lack of supervision. And I think even if that were to be accomplished, I think that the real third issue becomes the equipment, to your point that you just made. And from a committee perspective, right, the Township Committee, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm sure the administrator will correct me, but the park was put in 2001. So 2001, while to me and you probably seems like yesterday, was 13 years ago. Okay, so equipment gets old. Park equipment, as Mr. Maloney can attest, gets really old fast and becomes a liability. And we've had countless lawsuits because of misuse, and we are destined for another one if the equipment were to be substandard, as you just mentioned. And that comes into now the perspective of putting capital towards a new skate park. And I just don't think this committee, based on the budgetary constraints, cement skate parks are an expensive proposition. And that's really and it's also an expensive maintenance proposition because we live in I know I can't speak for Long Branch, but I'm sure cement cracks when you have ice and you have water getting in it from the winter. And then again, that creates liability. So I think part of the struggle we have here is that we tried it for 10 years, or it's probably closer to 2, so I won't say the whole 13 years, and it had you give that trial period, but now the committee's faced with, do you invest in that again? And based on the experience of the committee being bullying, and there's been some great things, as you mentioned, that have come out of that skate park too, and you mentioned today, and that's good to hear because there was a lot of money invested there, but or township money invested there, I should say a lot, but it becomes that issue of, priority. And I just don't think we're at that point, a committee or otherwise. I just don't think it's, we're at a point where we have to make a decision even if it was open with regards to the equipment.
I understand all that, but we can be open to potential independent fundraising. Would we be open to meeting and finding a location?
Why don't you stay after the meeting and we'll talk, okay? Thank you. Thank you for coming. Are there any other members of the public wishing? Ma'am?
Jennifer Valencia, the Arrowhead Court. Bear with me because I don't have my glasses. As you may know, Community Hall LLC was development in the all-road school on 37 acres on Chapel Hill Road. Chapel Hill Road, as you know, is a windy, narrow road, which is a municipal road, with no shoulders and no sidewalks. I'm sure you know we have a lot of walkers, bikers. There's 2 running groups, one of which I'm part of, and equestrians who use the road on a daily basis. I think in the Chapel Hill area we have 300 horses. So there's a lot of concern about the proposed development of an all-girls school with drivers on this narrow road. The applicant, Trinity Hall, has stated that it's not going to install sidewalks along Chapel Hill Road. And the only improvements it speaks of is right at the entrance site in front of the school. So I have some concerns should the planning board approve this application. I would like to know, is the township in a position to protect the bikers, pedestrians, and equestrians on our road? Specifically, is the township willing to, or is it even within the budget to widen Chapel Hill Road, to install sidewalks, to maybe put up traffic lights, to designate priority snow plowing? They know when it snows, Chapel Hill becomes a one-lane road.
Administrators going to address
The issue of the condition of the road or installation of sidewalks is totally up to the planning board. The planning board can require any developer developing land to make those sorts of improvements. So it shouldn't fall to the township committee when the development's proposed. If there was a street where there was nothing being built, then the township could consider, based on traffic conditions, either widening a road or adding lanes or signals or any of those sorts of things. But where there's a development proposed, it's responsibility of the developer. And the planning board, based upon testimony and evidence and traffic studies and that sort of thing, can require road improvements and absolutely can require sidewalk installation. Despite, you don't even need a study for that. That's an ordinance. In fact, the township ordinance requires sidewalks to be installed where there's any land development, unless there's a specifically good reason to waive them. And I don't imagine that there would be in this case.
What about some of the other factors such as traffic light? I know that.
Those are all within the purview of the planning board when they're reviewing a site plan application. So if there's a determination based on traffic studies that are submitted, the traffic data that's submitted, that either a new signal is warranted or changing the timing of an existing signal or adding a turn lane, those sorts of things, those are all the planning board decisions in conjunction with reviewing an application, not township committee decisions.
In the ordinance that controls the installation of sidewalks, will that apply to the entirety of Chapel Hill Road?
It would apply to their entire frontage on any road that they run on. Now, sometimes common sense tells you that some places maybe you don't need sidewalks. If there may be environmental constraints or a steep slope where, they would be inaccessible or something like that. But for the most part, where there's road frontage, the planning board can require sidewalk installation.
I mean, something I want the township committee to be aware of is that, there is a narrow road in parts of like less than 20 feet in width. So with the increased traffic, the pedestrians, the equestrians, the bikers are going to be split, not simply in that entrance zone, frontage zone of the school, but essentially for the entire length of Chapel Hill. All pedestrians are going to be displaced when we count the amount of traffic that is cycle running. So it's something.
Where are the pedestrians walking?
We have runners that do all of Chapel Hill.
In the street.
Yes.
Right. So I'm just saying, pedestrians are pedestrians going on the sidewalk. They're not pedestrians running the street. They're not supposed to walk or run in the street. So that's not, there's no obligation to maintain streets so that people can run in. You need streets for cars.
Right. Well, suffice it to say, they exist. They're there.
I understand.
There's bikers, there's equestrians. The equestrians need somebody to get the horse there.
I get it. The roads are for cars, not pedestrians, not for horses. I know they use them, but it's not really a plan. The township or the planning board can't base their decision on trying to preserve a road so that runners and horses can continue using their cars. So it's not really legal to do that. So I understand it's a factor to real life that happens there. But the planning board couldn't really use that as a criteria for making a decision.
One additional consideration is that we do have a number of bus stops along Chapel Hill Road.
School bus stops?
What's that?
School bus stops.
School bus stops, yes, that's correct. And that's something that should be considered when there's going to be an onslaught of vehicles in this elementary age children.
Okay, we're up against the 5-minute wall. Thank you. Thanks for your comment. Are there any other members of the public? Sir? You just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kevin McDeaver, 16 Lane Court.
wanted to come before the committee tonight, just ask a few questions about an event that's happening at the Middletown Sports Complex, or whatever we're calling it, kind of a former swim club. It's happening on May 17th, 18th.
It's not happening.
It's not happening.
No.
Your concerns are a lot.
Rest easy.
And
It's a government action for you.
can I ask you, why is it not happening? Did they pull out, or?
We'll leave that to interpretation.
Mutually agreed upon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public? Leo?
Good evening, Leo Christophe, 121 Cranberry Court, River Plaza, Middletown. This March 27th, this year at 7 p.m., the freeholders will be meeting in the main library in Manalapan, and there will be a PowerPoint presentation with charts on the Monmouth County 2014 budget. I attended the one, I think it was last Thursday, or the Thursday before that, and the next week they had the same meeting repeated at the Eastern Branch Library. I attended both of them. I'll probably attend the one at the main library because you can always learn one more thing. One of the things you learn is that you can actually ask the a governing board to have the CFO give a presentation on the 3 years that a cap bank runs, so that the public can be made to understand clearly an abstruse matter. The fact is that the freeholders have used the cap bank in the last 3 years in such a way that they could have spent $11 million more and did not, besides using reserve funds of $3 million this year and using $6 million last year. So there are inventive and creative things that people can do to reduce spending and prevent higher costs, although these things are somewhat driven. Freeholders are running a flat, in fact it's $100,000 less the budget for the county this year than it was last year, and so it's not literally flat, it's less. The other thing that came up when I was over at Tinton Falls, and I think the counselor at law here was probably present, each member of the board was, the council was assigned as a liaison, not an advocator or a legislator, a liaison to one of the commissions or agencies or departments of basically appointed people who volunteer. I would recommend this business about legally quashing and terminating the Rights Commission, that I recommend it to the Tinton Falls Council that they be very clear that when they assign volunteers, appoint them to, say, commissions, that they give it the proper title. And I'll give what I think is the proper title. And you can keep the commission, but make sure that people who are on it know what their proper role is, which I think Mr. Fiore was trying to demonstrate when he differentiated the difference between advocacy and advising. I'm familiar with advising consent. I know that I had to take things in my professional life as a teacher under advisement, and I looked the word up and it means consideration. I'll consider it. So I don't think anybody on an advisory commission should be coming before any government person or body in or out of their official place of legislating, that they should just be approaching people like you as consultants, and we're going to give you our best advice based on our study, and then you can deliberate on my advice and then decide what you want to do. I think that's plain. So I would make sure that I choose these words carefully, and I would always stick the word advisory in there and define it pretty clearly so that people can understand. Just could I ask one last question, or maybe you could say it'll be answered in another meeting. Does this governing body intend to bond at all in the 2014 budget? Any new authorization of bonds?
Well, there's a capital program in the budget, but no final decisions have been made yet. And bonding would take place when we feel that the market would be most advantageous.
You know, the school board bonded for rough numbers 19, and they expect to get a grant of 13. And I went to one of their meetings and had to force out of them, what's the interest? And the person who wrote the ballot referendum, a lawyer, did say, well, for 10 years at 3.5, it'll be $5 million in interest, so that obviously raises 19 up to 24. And she said if we bond for 15 years, it will be $8 million, and so the debt service goes from 19 up to 26. I said, you know, I like that. Why don't we get that in the ballot? She said, I can't prejudice the outcome of it if I put that information in there. I said, if you withhold it from the public, you're deceptive. And that's unfortunately my view, and the views of others, of the way we bond in all levels of government here in New Jersey. There's a lot of deceptiveness. And the final deceptiveness of it, and I'll make this my last comment, is if you read the ballot form, which I have a copy, which I tore in half because I like to use the paper for notes when I get telephone calls. You know, I write a note to my wife when she's not there. Dear Martita, blah, 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 blah. Lovely, you know. Anyway, but you know, it's trying to use the, you know, the big sheets of paper. But it tells us in there that of the $13 million that the state will grant this school board here, if they bond the money, that the Board of Ed may have to bond perhaps all the way up to 13 more million until they get the 13 million from the state. I didn't learn this until I got this in the mail, even though I attended the meeting. That's some more deceptiveness, because when you go for 13 million more, well, you may bonding, you may get it all back in the principal. You're still going to pay interest on it. So it's a really deceptive thing. And I would advise this governing body, wherever you have to go to do it, is make sure when any bonding is done in Middletown, in Monmouth County, and in the state of New Jersey, that the citizens in the local district, region, vicinity, are first and foremost those legally allowed to buy the bonds.
Thank you.
Because I can't do that.
Thank you.
And I would have, but thank you for that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Ma'am?
I will agree. Linda Sue Carroll, 127 Mill Lane in Tinton Falls once again.
Thank you.
I wanted to do more than just read a letter written by someone other than myself, although I had input. Three quick things. The mayor mentioned that we now have a heightened public awareness about things dealing with human relations, about intergroup relations and the rights of those who were previously disenfranchised. That's a good reason to have a forum like the Human Rights and Human Relations Committee, where people can bring issues. That's a good thing. Secondly, the town commission, committee, as I understand it, has the authority to appoint members to such a committee. and to choose those members that really care about human relations as opposed to anything else, and who they feel will adhere to a fair mission statement and can insist that that mission statement fit what you want it to. And finally, I think a healthy committee, a healthy community needs advocates. I think advocacy is a good thing. And needs people who do not hesitate to speak for their cause, whatever it would be. That, in fact, is what politics is. As I, a former teacher of civics and government history, have always believed. And this advocacy does not need to be partisan or vitriolic. Sometimes frustration often leads to intemperance. And I think that's happened here tonight. It need not. And it need not destroy a valuable community entity. And I think is what their human rights committee is.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Sir. Just a reminder of name and address.
Tom Marino, 604 Drive, in Middletown. And I'd just like to bring to the committee's attention certain points that come from Trinity Hall's own comprehensive feasibility study, which causes me a lot of concern with them being an ongoing entity. And the first point from the feasibility study is that they say that the population of families with children in Monmouth County declined over the past decade at a higher rate than that of the rest of the state. Another point was that, and as we're all well aware, that Trinity Hall is an all-female school in the Roman Catholic tradition. And there's a point in there that the female population in Monmouth County, ages 15 to 19, is expected to decline as much as 16% from 2008 to 2028. Another point was that they had a focus group, and that many in the focus group pointed out that the proposed academy does not have a proven track record and would need to establish its success and reputation so that, proving itself would be a prerequisite for them to enroll their daughters in the school. And when they talk about it being, single sex and in the Catholic tradition, well, the respondents, when choosing a high school for their girls, the values and morals of the Catholic faith was not in the top 10 of important factors, and single-sex education was last on that list, what they chose. They had enrollment numbers, or potential enrollment numbers, at the time, and they said for the first year, they predicted enrollment to be 79 students for the first year. Well, Trinity Hall only has 30 students, so that represents less than 38%.
Sir, I just want to interrupt you, and I'll let you continue, but we can't comment on that application for fear of prejudicing it, but we're certainly willing to listen.
Sure, okay. And thank you. I just have one more point, is that the enrollment, they also said from the survey, was that after 4 years, they would have 289 students. Well, Trinity Hall is projecting 400 to 500 students. And if we use the results from the first year, after 4 years, Trinity Hall will only have expected 110 students in the school. So I just wanted to say, I don't want to see this to be an entity that fails and then taxpayers in Middletown is stuck with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, members. Kimberly Beaver, 5 Edgebrook Court, Middletown. My comment, actually, the gentleman Leo used the word deceptiveness many, many times, and that is a little bit of what my issues are. And I'm trying actually to get clarification on a statement regarding Trinity Hall, as was mentioned earlier. They have made a petition, and in the petition, I don't have it in front of me, and I'm certainly not going to read everything to you, but basically to summarize, they were seeking supporters using the statements made, which pretty much said that Trinity Hall's school would be a much better alternative than the development that would become being 300 housing units, including low-income housing. And this is specifically in the petition and why they got supporters to sign it. Mike, I know you cannot comment, but what I'm asking is that statement from the township a true statement that that could be developed as such?
That's not a statement from the township. And
I understand it's not. I'm saying they are saying that this is what will happen if the school is not built, this will be the alternative.
Right.
Is that possible, that 300 homes, low-income housing, could go on that track?
The only comment I can make is I'm going to ask our administrator to state the number of houses that had been approved with a previous application. That is the only thing that I can fathom that anyone is referring to, because again, we can't predict what would be there, but it can only be in compliance with the zone. Mr. Mervyn.
Yeah, there was an approval a number of years ago for 19 houses on the property. And the zoning permit about that number of units, and that it's already been approved. I mean, they literally could go next week and start building those houses if they wanted to.
So 19 is not anywhere near the 300 specifically stated in their petition.
Look, I didn't read their petition.
No, I
don't know
understand.
the actual wording of
That's
it, but, you know, somebody brought this up at a recent meeting at the Township Committee. Well, you know, they're saying they could, and what I said at the meeting is, well, people can apply and ask to do almost anything, right? I mean, you could ask to build a skyscraper on it. That doesn't mean it's allowed, but you can ask. You could try it. But all we can tell you is, right now, it's zoned for single-family houses, and the approval on the property, which is still valid, is for 19 houses.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to hear straight from the source and not from, unfortunately, the deceptiveness of other litigation or paper that's been put out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kelly Manuel, 99 Wilson Avenue in Fort Monmouth. I've been elected about the skate park because they're scared. They also have, just as this gentleman did, have some concerns about what to do with, now that they're skateboarding and that there's no place to do it. You're going to have them in the streets, you're going to have them in the parking lots, it's really unsafe. They need a place, especially Fort Monmouth. We have so many children that are displaced from Sandy. That was a place that I know that there was a lot of problems there, but there's a lot of problems in all the parks in Middletown. It's not just that park. Fort Monmouth specifically needs some place for these teens to be. If they're not there, they're going to get involved in the heroin, they're going to be hanging out on the streets. Something needs to, whether it's a skate park, which I think is a wonderful idea, but something needs to be done. The only park on that side of the highway that I'm aware of is the Brainerd Ave Park, which is really set up for, is it Brainerd? It's really set up for toddlers and smaller children. And I don't think you want to mix them. I know that there is a basketball court there. Excuse me.
I think it's Greenleaf Park.
Greenleaf,
okay.
And then there's the other one for Monmouth Road, which would be,
So, I know there's a basketball court at that park. My son and his friends and a lot of the other students in the area, they're not team players for team sports. They like to do things on their own. They like to do the biking, they like to do the rollerblading, the skateboarding, the longboarding, all that kind of thing. I just think there needs to be a safe place where they can do it. And that's all I have to say. If you guys want to add something.
So don't ever be afraid to say what you have to say.
I know my son was very upset, extremely upset, where he showed up there and wanted to protest. And I had to explain to him how you go about doing that appropriately. Okay, you can't be on the property, all of that. So it's been a lesson for him in civics as well.
Right.
But this is really something that he believes in. Okay.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mayor, can I just say
Sure.
one thing
Sure,
quick?
sure.
I just want to clarify what the administrator said before. We looked through the police records. There were over 500 that is extraordinary. And I know we have problems in every park to a degree, but that is so far off the chart. And we've had lawsuits by, people who even illegally use it, suing us on top of it. So these are all things that we have to consider when we, think about a facility, whether going forward or not. Our hearts say we would love to do this, but there's a reality, and we have a responsibility to the whole township. So between lawsuits, the extraordinary amount of police calls, the potential for real injury to younger kids from older kids, and also the destruction of the facility itself, all of this is a huge cost.
I completely understand all those issues that you brought up. I think that all the areas, whether it's 500 calls or not, that skate park is on a main road. There's police going by there, or can be going by there all the time. I don't know where there's a supervision problem during the day. At night, if there's an issue, I know my son's not there at night. I don't know about the other children in the neighborhood, but I know it happens in other parks. It's not just this park. Kind of portrays that it's this park, and it's really not just this park in Middletown. These students, they have no place to hang out. The other issue is trying to cross that highway to get to, whether it's the park like Blackies and Blackies, you know what I'm talking about? It's like May Kelly. I would prefer that he not cross that highway. And I'm sure that all of the parents on that side of the highway would prefer that their child not cross to get to any of those parks on that side. The other issue is, I was told by somebody at Nephews that they were trying to work out some kind of a deal that they would be responsible, and I know there's a lot of legal and stuff that needs to be dealt with that, but you guys are kind of saying that it's a done deal. There is no plan on even looking into a skate park at this point?
No, we had talked to them a long time ago about the possibility that they had offered and said, they would supervise the park, but from a liability standpoint, the township can't hand over the responsibility of the park to a couple of young guys who happen to have a business around the corner, you know what I mean? If something bad happens, it's still going to fall on the township.
They were willing to take on the insurance?
Believe me, I understand that. They can take on all the insurance in the world, but the township is going to be...
And that is not going, because when I spoke with him today, he said that he had something going, so he thinks that...
No, but we met with him a week or so ago, and what we said was, look, we're willing to continue talking to you guys about trying to come up with a sensible solution or a better location in the future, but right now, there's nothing in the cards, because, as I said, what happened was, when the park was closed and it was continually being broken into and vandalized, it kind of soured everyone to the idea that the kids who wanted to use it really were going to abide by the rules, because they weren't.
And I understand that, and I understand kids get in trouble, and some of them are not all as well behaved as others, but when you close something that, we were there when they opened it.
I know.
And when they close something that students and children use, I'm not saying it's right, but they were a little sour on the fact that you guys put this nice park in and now the gates are locked. I'm not saying that that's the right way to handle it.
Yeah, definitely is.
Whether he wasn't the right way to handle it standing on the ramp and not letting the bulldozer come and take it away. But something has to be done for these kids on that side of the highway. You're going to have kids going up and down the streets with skateboards and bikes. And it's going to be an issue. I know that there have been people hit trying to cross that highway, whether they're coming off the bus or whatever.
Look, no matter where a skateboard park is put, if another one was built anywhere in town, someone's going to have a hard time getting there. You can't have one on every street corner. If there was a single location, wherever it is, someone's going to have to cross a highway to get to it, right? Because it's a big town. And understand
that was given to the children. And because of Sandy, these kids don't have now. They've lost everything that they've ever.
Okay, so we're up with the 5, but we're going to stay around and we can talk some more. Okay? Thank you.
Actually, they have homework. But thank you for listening.
You know where we are.
So many years to the account. Because we had thought we might reopen it if our financial situation improved, or we might relocate the equipment to another place. So that's not a reason to break in, just because the equipment is still there. I know you didn't. I'm sure you didn't, but some people did. In fact, as was someone mentioned, someone broke into the park, got hurt, and sued us. So, no, that doesn't work. That's not legal. That's not legal.
It doesn't work like that.
That's your concern. How many other parks?
They obviously haven't had the issues, or they have chosen to keep it open despite those issues. But I don't know why the way they operate. Long Branch is a little big difference. It's part of the county park system, have a much bigger system than we do. They have the ability to monitor places and check them out on a regular basis. They have rangers. We don't have anything like that. So the county park system is, much bigger than we are. So that's a little bit of a different situation.
Well, I don't know about Park Ridge, but I know the police are very easily go down that street and monitor it. But thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Mr. Schweden.
Thank you, John Middleton, sitting in Hampton, clear out. Richard said that we should refer to speak on another crack at it, try and stick to the facts. It's hard to stick to the facts when a member of the committee starts engaging in personal attacks against your spouse. But anyway, I thought the facts were clear, that the clause about the pet food drive didn't make any sense at all. You take that as a precedent and apply it to anything in the future, it's like a reason that was concocted. But I guess that it might not set a precedent because I guess clauses in ordinances don't necessarily carry any weight for anything that happens in the future. So even if I kept track of everything in the future and said that if anyone contributed to the USO like myself, then they can't support or they can't be a member of any organization that helps our veterans. That apparently don't carry any weight. But I wish the committee would take a look at the clauses and see if they make any sense. The comments I wrote before, which are more strong, I said that this is laughable and ignorant, and the person that wrote that ought to be fired. But trying to stay calm, I think overall it's a sad day that the 350th anniversary of Middletown, that the Human Rights Commission has been dissolved. And I guess actually, if you look at the ordinance, it hasn't existed since 1987, since all the ordinance had was an amendment that, all the ordinance did was undo the amendment passed in 1987 that continued the Human Rights Commission. So I guess everything that happens from 1987 hasn't actually happened. I don't understand the legal aspects of that. Anyway, it's a sad day. Middletown has had minority representation on the Human Rights Commission. It had representation from the Heath family. If you look at the Heath exhibit at Hayden Park, it shows you a lot about the background of Middletown and the minorities that came to Middletown, the freed slaves that started the Clinton Chapel, and that the minorities have been represented on the commission, both the volunteers with no ulterior political motives. And if you look at that exhibit at a county park, I think the county itself has been much more inclusive than Middletown has been. They start to take actions like this. And I know my speaking here won't do any good, because apparently speaking before this committee does not change anyone's mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would be wishing to make a comment? Seeing no other members of the public, I move to close public comment and adjourn.
Second.
Yes. Committee Ms. South?
Yes.
Committee Ms. Sharpenberger?
Yes.